Welcome to How to Create Perfect Print-Ready Files using Adobe InDesign. My name is Scott Nordstrom, and I am your moderator today. I want to cover a couple housekeeping items before we get started. So we're going to keep you all muted during this webinar to minimize any background noise or other distractions. Really want to make this time valuable for you and feel that that would be the best experience. However, in the control panel on your right-hand side, you can submit questions. So what we'll do with those questions is we will address those questions either during the webinar, at the end of the webinar, or after the fact. We'll send you an email or follow up with a phone call. So we want to get all of the questions addressed if we can during our time today. So this webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link most likely tomorrow. So you'll be able to reference this material after the fact, or if you'd like, you think it would be valuable for a colleague, you'll have the option to forward that as well to a colleague or two if you choose. Also, you will be receiving a really short survey. So this is the first in a series of webinars that we hope to bring you, and we want to make this time valuable for you. So any feedback that you can offer would be really appreciated. You can suggest future topics if you wish. Feedback just to make this overall experience better would be beneficial as well. Lastly, on the last slide, you're going to have an email that you could submit any questions after the fact, or certainly you'll have the option to get with the person that invited you to the webinar as well. So again, welcome. Next month we will hope to, or we do plan on bringing you our second webinar, and that will be featuring wide format as the topic, and we'll be talking about applications in your business as well as just applications in general in the marketplace. All right. So again, my name is Scott Nordstrom. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at Vision Graphics Eagle XM, and I lead a team of 22 professionals. So it's not just the folks that originate the work, the project, the program with you, the client, and then bring it into our shop, but we have an entire team that actually coordinates the entire process. So they work with our production folks to actually coordinate the project with you, the client. So a pretty big support group here to make sure that we get things right for you. And if you are a prospect on the line today and not familiar with Vision Graphics Eagle XM, certainly would encourage you to take advantage of those of that group. Also, I mean, really our objective is to bring your concept to life and on time. So we are excited to do that each and every day for our clients. So David Boardman, he is our subject matter expert, and David Boardman has been in pre-press here at Vision Graphics Eagle XM for 2 decades. So not only is he an expert at pre-press, but he is an expert at doing pre-press the Vision Graphics Eagle XM way. So a little bit about our company. We are really one company here under one roof in Denver, 80,000 square feet, under 2 brand names. And our 2 brand names, Vision Graphics and Eagle XM, we have a very long legacy of serving top-tier companies here in Colorado as well as nationwide for over a combined 100 years. So a couple things about our capabilities. Our Kamari HUV press that was installed in the 4th quarter of 2014, really second to none technology in offset printing. If you've not seen this press since it's been installed, I would encourage you to get with the person that invited you to this webinar and schedule a plant tour. It's worth a few minutes to come out and see how this thing works and how fast it is, and really what kind of quality work that can be produced with this press. As I've mentioned before, we're under 80,000 square feet here in Denver, and we have full mail and fulfillment capabilities, actually producing 20 million pieces of mail last year. So if you're not taking advantage of those capabilities, I would encourage you to do so. So you might be asking yourself, or before you signed up for this webinar, you might have asked yourself, why is this important to me? So incorrectly made files can result in a couple things. One, increased production time. Anytime that you have to go back on a file, whether it's somehow it was made in error or there's missing elements, I mean, that's increased production time. You might have to go back a second, third, fourth time. I mean, that equals increased cost for you and putting your creative together and submitting your files. And so when we bring your project into our plant for the first time, we establish an entire set of milestones in terms of how your production is going to be scheduled and in our workflow. And anytime we're going back on bad files, it increases the opportunity for a missed deadline. And I know that neither one of us wants that. So David Boardman is going to touch a little bit more detail on each of these things. So I am going to turn this over to David at this point. And thanks again for joining us. And David, I think that you have control now.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on this snowy Groundhog Day. So wherever you are, I hope you're staying warm. I'm hearing that Buxton Phil did not see a shadow cast, so early spring is forecast, and that sounds good to me. So as Scott said in his introduction, my name's David Boardman. I've been in the pre-press and printing industry for 20 years. So as you can imagine, I've seen lots of changes over those years. And one of the reasons when we started to look at setting up these webinars that I was encouraged was the relatively recent ability to create print-ready PDFs has really been a game changer in the industry. So I want to be able to help you figure out how to do that. We're on board to help you with that, and it dramatically improves the services we offer. You know, having a good print-ready PDF pass through our workflow, it can literally go through pre-press in minutes. So I really want to encourage you towards adopting this workflow. So some of the things we're going to look at. So as we said, we're going to look at how to create print-ready PDFs, basically and mainly using InDesign, Adobe InDesign. And this really is a basic 101 class webinar. We will be having future classes that are more advanced. I'm going to talk about that in a little here. I'm on Apple Mac. Everything you're going to see on the Apple Mac works just as well on a PC. We're going to cover, we're going to talk about PDFs versus native files. We're going to talk about bleeds, image resolution, page layout. And as we said, those are really, you know, the more of the 101 stuff. But they do account for about 90% of all our file issues and problems. So again, a lot of encouragement in working with us on this. In later webinars, we're going to get a little bit more advanced. We're going to talk, so we're going to look at spot color separations. We're going to look at creating varnishes and what's involved with that. We're going to look at one big one we see out there, and that's how to create a pocket folder correctly. We see a lot of pocket folders come through, and the amount that are created correctly is pretty low. So we want to help you figure out how to get a good print-ready pocket folder. We're going to look at ink and ink on paper, things like that, understanding that. We're going to keep you posted on those dates as they come up. And really, I'd like to encourage you to also give us subject matter that you'd like to see. We really want to get some feedback because we want to be able to give you some in-depth webinars in the future. So again, thanks for attending. Welcome. So let's kind of jump right in and look right off the bat at PDFs versus native files. So print-ready PDFs versus native files. Those are really the two options that we see the jobs coming in. And as I've already said, receiving print-ready PDFs, those are dramatically going to speed up your project. As opposed to native files being packaged and sent to us. They can proceed flawlessly, but they now have more opportunity for stuff going wrong. You've got possibility of missing fonts and graphics. So those projects in the native can come to a halt pretty fast in a workflow. So we're going to look at that because for some people their only option is to create package files. So I do have a little cheat sheet that you're going to be able to download that's going to help you on how to correctly package a file and send it to us. And you know, if you're working in Illustrator and Photoshop, and a lot of people do, usually when you're in that workflow, you do have InDesign likely available within your kind of suite of programs. So I encourage you to take use of that, because I want you to think of InDesign as where everything ends up. So if you're working in Illustrator or Photoshop, you can do your work there, but then bring it all into InDesign and then create your print-ready PDF, because that's the emphasis here. Print-ready PDFs. That's what we want to get from our clients, and we want to help you on how to do that. So let's now move on to, I've got a couple of things I'm going to pull up here on my screen. I hope everyone will be able to see this. So the big one that we see a lot of is bleeds. A lot of times we'll get people send us PDFs that are pretty close to going through the workflow, but they're missing bleeds. So, and a lot of people, as I say, it's 101, maybe don't understand why we have bleed and what it's about. So a bleed is basically, if you can follow my cursor here, if you imagine this is your page size here, anything that you want to go to the edge of the paper needs to extend beyond. The image is extending beyond here at the top and the left, and this blue bar to the left and right sides. Full bleed would be all the way around the image. And that's basically all bleed is. Anything that's going to the edge of the paper, you need to extend it beyond. Because once we take that and print it, and it goes through our finishing process, if we don't have bleed, then you've got a potential of when it goes and gets cut, that you're going to have a white line showing right along the edge, and it could look ugly in any kind of project. So that's usually one of the big ones that we see. In this little demonstration here, I've got another little section here that shows something about, some people have asked me just to kind of cover this, and I'm going to really cover it just very, very briefly. And it's to do with what's called creep or shingling, and a lot of people just don't understand that concept, so I just want to cover it real quick. And it's really simple. If you look here on the left, and you have various sheets of paper, and you fold them and gather them together, just by natural physics, the inner pages are going to push out more than the outside. It's just a physical factor. When you gather those sheets and fold them together, that's what's going to happen. And this is basically the nuts and bolts of creep and shingling. As it pushes the pages on the inside out, if we take those pages and then cut them, it can change the amounts of bleed, how it's affected through your finished booklet. So if you imagine this as a saddle stitch book, and then if we trimmed it and you flick through the pages, you're going to see this amount here changing as it gets closer to the center of the book. So that's really all that that shingling and creep is, and we have mathematical ability within our imposition software to compensate for this. And so the emphasis where this gives us issue with bleed is just encouraging you on those bigger booklets that are going to saddle stitch, try to give us as much bleed as you can. Generally, 1/8 of an inch will cover most things, but if you get some of these thicker books and you've got more image, go ahead and extend it beyond that. It's not gonna hurt anything. So that's kind of this first one. I'm just checking my notes here to make sure I'm covering everything I wanted to talk to you about. We do sometimes get jobs that come through and we have no option of bleed, and then we're down to having to do some pretty basic stuff, like we try to extend the bleed ourselves, which again takes time and unfortunately cost. Or we may have to increase the page size a little bit to give us a little bleed, or we may have to actually reduce it a little bit. So those are kind of things we face when we're in that situation where we're told we can't get another document, we can't give you bleed. So just keep that in mind. That's what we have to do on a physical sense to get that project through the shop. And again, time and unfortunately that money word. So that's 101 on bleed. I'm going to show you a couple of other things that we see. Hope everybody can see this. Let me just slide these over here. So this, I'm trying to show you here what we look at when, this would be if someone's working in Illustrator and they're working on a piece that's going to die cut. So we see various things going on with this kind of situation. This is an example of a die cut piece here that's going to back up itself. It's like going to print process on both sides. It's going to die cut using this die line. So various things can happen. Sometimes people will send us a piece like this, and we want to call it like it's floating. It's in a bigger page size, and they're kind of just side by side floating like this with the die line. And then we have to then assemble this so it's going to correctly go through our rib. So we have to take these pages, and I'm going to quickly jump forward to how it should look. And here we see here that now we've got the page 1 on its own page and page 2 on its own page. And the page is built to the exact dimensions of the die line, the maximum perimeter here and on the sides and the bottom. That's kind of my document size. So when a document comes in that's like this, the prepress department has to take this and assemble it in InDesign and set it up correctly. And a couple of other things, usually common things we see with this, sometimes we don't see bleed, which is an issue. Whenever anything's got a die cut, we've got to have bleed. And sometimes we see the die line itself here, which I can turn off in my separations. You'll see here in this example, the die line is knocking out of the image, which in basics, we're not going to print the die line, so this is how the piece would print. So obviously we can't print that. We have a big white line there. We have to fix that. So that's kind of another thing we see, people not overprinting the die line. The other thing we see is people actually building this die line in 4-color. So they just build it as a, a red die line, and it falls within CMYK, and that again is no good because that would print, and we don't want the die line to print. So I wanted to cover that basic, and to show you here, just zoom out a little. You'll see here this is now set up correctly, and the die line now is overprinting. So when I turn that off, it disappears. So that's the piece we want to print, and the die line is only there for our die cutter to cut the piece out. So that's a little bit on some of the basics involved with that. I'm going to show you a couple of things we see. We sometimes see people give us pages and they kind of put a key line in that shows where the page trims. And again, this is a CMYK build, and we got a line in here. So if I shut off my colors, just put the black on, this line is in the work, so that itself has to be eliminated because we don't need those lines in there. We will cut it according to our trim marks. Let's see. Now, this is something that, again, Basics 101, rich black. A lot of you may have heard of what rich black is. And this is generally if you've got any large areas of solids if you print a large area of solid as 100% black, it'll come out black on the press, but maybe won't have quite the power of a nice solid rich black. And the way we get that is we just simply take this black and we put some undercolor under it. And this is generally a very common build that's within the print industry, is we have 40% cyan, 30 magenta, and 30 yellow now built underneath our 100 black. So if I turn off the black here, you'll see that there's a nice gray area. That's where those undercolors are built. And of course, as I turn the black off, you see there's nothing under the other one. So that's a little basics there. I want to show you a couple of things to do with resolution. I'm going to pull up a different image I've got for you here. Let me just flick through this, sorry. So that was the bleeds that we covered. Let me get this more centered on the screen so you can see this hopefully. And again, just a quick emphasis on bleed and what it looks like after we cut. There's the final piece, and this is now a bleed in our waste that gets thrown. And, whoops, going the wrong way. Resolution. So 101 again, resolution. A lot of people pull things from the web, and of course, generally when that happens, it can end up being 72 dpi. And so in a print environment, printing 72 dpi is going to give us something more like this, whereas 300 dpi, nice and crisp and clear, and that's really what you need to be going towards in a print environment. You need 300 dpi. You want to try to avoid RGB. Modern rips these days do convert RGB to CMYK, and we print in CMYK in a printing environment, RGB converts in the RIP, but it may cause some unexpected color shifts. So that's where we encourage 300 dpi CMYK image is always the best route to go in your files. And another big one that kind of trips a few people up is to do with page layout. So I'm looking here at an example of a saddle stitch book. Let's say you were going to print like a 16-page saddle stitch book. We just need single pages. They can be facing pages, as they're showing here, but we just need single pages. We take care of all the imposition. This is showing reader spreads in single pages, and that's kind of what our emphasis. You'll hear sometimes your accounts say, yeah, give us the single pages. They don't have to be individual single pages. They can be built into a document like this. But single pages set as facing pages is fine. And we then do the imposition for this correctly for press from this layout. If you build these as spreads, then we have to split them apart. And again, that time and money word comes up, because then these have to be split apart to be imposed correctly to run on a press. So, excuse me. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. So the other things that happen to do with when we're asking for how to lay out the pages is if you're going to give us a book that's going to perfect bind, or it's going to spiral bind or loose leaf. With those, when you've got elements that bleed, like we're looking over here on these little thumbnails here, then we ask you to give us single pages that are not facing pages. That way then you can extend the bleed on all four sides. Because our imposition is a little bit different in those elements, we have to basically impose it with a gutter all the way around the pages for what we call grind off. So again, some technical terms there, and not too much to worry about. It's just basically, if you're going to give us a book that's going to be a perfect bound, so you can have a spine generally in that situation, or a wire bound, keep that as single pages, extend your bleeds all the way around, and everything should be fine, and we impose it from there. So we've got a few things to help you here. And this is where we're going to start talking about some of our presets that we have available for you. And over on the right here, I believe that Scott has got a whole bunch of handouts that have a lot of these presets that will really help you to getting a good PDF print-ready file. So I'm going to kind of just walk through some of that. Let me just shrink this down. We're going to look now at a couple of things.
Dave?
We're going to. Hello, yes?
Yeah, I wasn't able to upload into the handout section the presets, but they do have the how-to guide PDFs.
I will go over that with our audience.
Okay. All right.
So
thank you.
let's just talk a little bit about getting some of these presets into your hands, onto your machine, and then you're in a way stronger position to creating good quality print-ready PDFs. So first of all, go into our website, www.visiongraphics-inc.com. Here's our homepage, and right at the top here you're going to see resources. You just select that tab, and over here you're going to see our creating print-ready PDFs, how-to essential techniques, a PDF guide. This is available for you to download. I'm going to click on this. This is the guide. I believe it's a 32-page guide. You can read it online, you can download it. It goes into a lot more depth. I published this guide myself. I was the author of this. And it does go into a lot more depth on how to create print-ready PDFs. So that you've got for your to access. And then if you look over here, click here to download and install our PDF presets. So you simply click that and it's going to download it in the background, and that's going to give you a zip file with everything you need to get on your way to creating good files. So I've selected it, we've got it downloaded. I just reduce this, and then I'm going to go into InDesign, and we're going to just kind of walk through what's involved with getting those presets loaded. So I've got InDesign CC on this machine on a Mac loaded and opened. And I've got my preset. It downloaded in the background on my desktop as a zip file. I've got one already that I've opened here. Within that zip file, this is the folder you're going to get, and this is the job option that we have set up. I personally set this one up. We've gone through and got everything kind of nailed down to the way it's going to give you a good PDF. And it also includes a couple of things we're going to talk about a Grackle ICC profile and how to incorporate that with it. But let me first of all just go back into InDesign, and we will load that preset. Very, very simple. You just simply go under File, down to Adobe PDF Presets, and say Define, and simply load and navigate to where it is. So here's one of my presets here, and there it is. This is the job option. I'm going to just click Open. There it is. I'm done. That's it. You've got that preset now loaded in InDesign, so that when you go to make a file, when you now go back under Adobe PDF Presets, you'll see it in the queue. And this is kind of where you're going to be going to create your file. You're not going to print, you're not going to export. This is where you will actually go to create a PDF. And we'll walk through that. So let me pull up a native file here that I'm going to use, and we'll just create a PDF real quick. This is just a simple one-page document. Everything's set up correctly. High-res images. We've got bleeds all around. This would imagine now this is in your environment. You've got your document set up correctly. It's just a simple 8.5 by 11 4-color. And now you're ready to send it to us. And it's very simple. File, Adobe PDF Presets, go to our option, a preset option, and tell it where you want to put the file. In this case, I'm just going to let it go on the desktop. So it's saying it's going to export that preset, and I'm going to say save, and then we'll look at what you're going to see. This is kind of where the nitty-gritty of how that preset was built, and a few little details in here, how to contact us about this if you have questions, a little bit about an ICC profile in here. I'm going to talk about that also. All these presets are all set the correct way you want them. We don't want things kind of being set up for the web. This is for print. So this preset has got all this built in, the correct compatibility with our PDFs and also our PDFX profile. And this is a subset. PDFX is basically a subset that Adobe came up with, and it narrows in for commercial print. The PDFX 4 option is for commercial printers to use. It gives the option then of not accepting certain colors or the way colors are built. And I'm not going to get into all the technicalities of it, but it's basically for print. So that's the profile we're moving towards. And all these settings then are all set correctly the way we would want them for press. And it's given us then the option of how to show bleeds and marks and where we want them, the things we don't want to show. And again, if you've got a bleed in your document like this one's showing, it will pick up these details and give us a correct PDF. And our output, it's telling us what to do. As it color converts, it tells us which profile to pick up. And like I said, I keep saying I'm going to get into the Grackle part of it, and I will in a moment. And that's saying what destination Grackle profile to pick up, and I'm going to show you how to load that in your machine. Now it's going to output. And a couple of other things it does here. Again, I'm briefly going to touch a little bit because I want people to understand a little bit about subset fonts and what is going on there and why you want subset fonts to be actually embedded. So usually in these profiles, when you open them up, by default this is set at 100. We actually want the opposite. You'll see it set at 0, and that's because we don't want our fonts to be subset. And what a subset font is, if people don't know, and then let's say it's 101 here. If you, for example, look at this typeface here, Never Grow Up, if you have this where it's going to subset, it's only going to pick up any characters that are used in this font. It's not going to pick up, for example, let's say there was an S. It wouldn't pick it up in a subset. So if someone came along and said, I want to change this to another, please change this to say never, I don't know, don't grow up or something, then we probably don't have those characters in there to change it on the fly because there'd be a subset. But in our PDF option, because it's 0, all the fonts are embedded. So every character from this typeface is embedded within the PDF. So you say to us, I want this to be never, don't grow up or something, we can change that on the fly if it was a last minute thing before going on to press. So that's the main reason why we always encourage embedded fonts. And it's usually, again, one of those things that can trip us up down the road. We see that happen quite a bit. Someone wants to make a late breaking change and we're like, we can't change it. The font is subset in your PDF. So that's the key. 0 gives you embedded.
So Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to take a second just to remind our audience, should they have any questions whatsoever in regards to the subject matter, they can submit a question using the taskbar on the right-hand side, and we will address those. All right.
Perfect. So all I'm going to do here is export, and you got a quick little progress bar. It moves through fast, you can't see it, and there's our good PDF. And everything here is built to PDFX format. All our fonts are embedded, and we're good to go. We're good to put that through our RIP. So let's just shrink this down a tad. We're going to look a little bit about that Grackle option that I just spoke about. And this Grackle profile it's Grackle 2013. It's an ICC profile. And this profile is a profile that we have all our proofing devices calibrated to. So when we're on press, everything runs to our proofs. So this profile enables you then to download your PDFs with this profile built in. So you're definitely well on your way and a lot closer to getting what your proof's going to look like to how it's going to print. So that is available to download, and I have a little instruction sheet here. Show you real quick. So once you get this profile, if you're on a Mac, you need to load it in this location on your Mac, and if you're PC, also you load it, it shows you how to load it in that location. So the two options, Mac, PC, will load this profile, and you should be good to go. If anyone has questions about that, we'll be glad to help you on that and how to get that loaded. Let's see, I might have a couple of other things here I want to just quickly touch on before I start to kind of finalize some of this. So again, native, you've got a native file, you've got an image that's more or less very solid black, you've built a background around it because you want it to fill an image, but unfortunately you've only built your background as 100 black, and you really should be looking at what's in this image, because when it gets on press, you're going to see a big difference. You're going to see a very dark color here, and you can see a lighter color, and that's another thing that could trip you up. And usually sometimes that can only be seen when you're actually on press. So it's worth keeping this one in mind if you're building files with dark images and you've got those background extended. Sometimes it only jumps out on press, and that's not really when you want it to jump out, because now we've got to figure out how to fix that, and again, cost, and that, we've got to make plates. So we're trying to help you avoid that. The way to get around it is, if you looked at this dark image here, what I did is I picked up one of these darker areas and I built my background that same color. So now if I turn my black off, you're going to see it's a nice smooth background color. You're not going to see any kind of weird lines appear on press. So that's another one I just wanted to kind of throw in this webinar. It's a quick little 101 tip. And I think I'm quickly scan through my images. Here we go. Here's one. This is when you download the PDF job option profile, it also comes with this little cheat sheet that I created, and you'll see here there's two sides of it. The first page is going to show you 4 very easy steps, and it's basically going to go through what we've talked about today on how to download and where to load the profile, and basically, put in a native file and what you're going to get out of it. Some of the benefits of that, and some of the fact that we encourage that you either work on-site or off-site with us in helping us get you set up for this workflow.
Yeah, Dave, this is also available for our audience under the handouts. It's labeled Quick Start Guide.
Yeah. And a little quick glossary on some of the common things you may hear in printing, like trap and various things, and overprint, knockout, and registration color. And then again, some one-on-one stuff, and registration color is one that does also trip people up. They build solid blacks with registration color, and that is a little different. They build it then, like that's, quickly jump back here. Let's see, we could use this one. If you built this black here as 100, 100, 100, 100, which is registration black, and all applications have that as an option, people select their background, they click registration in the back, and they say, oh, that's going to look great, that's really black. Well, unfortunately, that's going to be too black. It's not going to dry and cause offset problems, and various things that can happen. So registration black is only for what it actually is called, registration, which is the registration and trim marks around a document. So that's the only reason for registration black, and you really don't want to use it. Let me go back to my little guide here.
Dave, and, I do have a question on our black.
Yeah.
So we've got, the question is, I've seen various rich black combinations. Is yours an industry standard or more of a personal choice as what works best for your printers?
It's kind of like, it is kind of more or less closer to an industry standard. I don't know if there's really a nailed down industry standard that is out there, because when you start getting into the depth of it, you've got people who say, well, I like a bluer black, or I like a redder black. So it can get personal with what people want. That's just one that we suggest as kind of a middle of the road one for giving a nice rich black. But of course, if you've got your own preferences, that is not a problem either. You could build it, 60, 30, 30, 100 if you decide you want more of a bluer black. So we do see people, personal designers who have their own options, and that's their preference. So I've got no problem with that. It's, as I say, in this 101 webinar, we're just going over some of those basics. And if you don't know how to build a rich black, 40, 30, 30, 100 is a pretty good way to start. Does that help answer that question, Scott?
I hope so.
Okay. So in this little guide on the next page, I create a little guide here on how to package native files, as we covered that a little earlier. And this just kind of goes through, I believe, 6 steps here on how to package a native file for print. And a nice little useful guide if that's your chosen workflow. And that's that document I wanted you to see. You will have access to that. That'll be available to you. And I think I've covered all my little cheat sheets here and my little demos I wanted to show. I believe I have. I've got maybe one here that was a new one that I just kind of was trying to put together earlier today. And I don't want to confuse anyone because like I say, we're 101. But it's a little bit about, if you're working with a 6-page document that's going to fold, you've got your front cover and you've got your back cover and you've got pages that are going to fold in. People very often say, well, how do I do that? And again, it's that facing page thing we talked about. It's okay to set your page up as facing pages, and you can spread, you can copy across as it's showing on the inside and the outside. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that. Again, don't think that you can't work with spreads, because some people say, well, I've got these images that how can I build out single pages if I want to have my images spreading from page 1 to page blah blah. So keep that in mind. It's facing pages, single pages is a good key here. I think, Scott, that I've gone over everything that I wanted to kind of cover. We're probably at a good stage to open it up for some questions if anyone has anything. What are you seeing?
So Dave, can you can you address how we might work with a client that over time has shown some propensity to provide incorrectly made files? How do we address that with a client?
Well, the best way with that is to understand a few things. That we want to help you succeed. We want to offer you our on-site and off-site consultation on getting your team onto a proven workflow. And it doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, generally 15 to 30 minutes of your time, can be very valuable towards avoiding, future frustration, on both sides, and help you to streamline your operation. We're trying to create that valuable partnership with you, so we can be your print provider. That it's just we want to help you. Less touches, less cost, and more reliability. That when you send those files to us, every time you're going to go, man, those guys just get that job. They nail it every time. So that's the best I can say there. We want to help you. Don't be scared to ask us to help you. We're very open to helping you on this stuff.
So, and from time to time, we have had clients either in our facilities, or we'll actually make house calls to work with them, maybe set up their presets or
yeah. And usually I work personally myself with them. Usually a salesperson will get me with that client, and I will sometimes they bring their machine, and I will help them set it up. So looks like I'm seeing your screen again there, Scott. Is that okay? You want that?
Sure. Unless there's something else you wanted to show.
No,
we kind of said that we'd put this up
at
at the
end. I'm just open for those questions that anyone's got right now.
Yep, I do have some more questions. So when setting subset fonts to 0%, how does that affect the PDF size, file size?
Usually not that much. PDF files are pretty small files in general, so we've never seen an issue with that, because fonts are pretty small. If you look at a whole font library of something, it's not that much. In today's environment with space, I wouldn't say that should be something that put people off. Okay.
Is there a process? I don't know if we want to wade into these waters or not. We have a few more minutes. Is there a process for prepress when we do have a file that's been made in error? I mean, is there a process in place in terms of how do we coordinate that back with the client?
Well, again, very, depending on what the problem is, we do have to then start that lines of communication with the client on what we're going to do to fix it. We usually encourage the client to try to fix it, of course, because less cost involved if the client's fixing it. So that's usually the first kind of line of path we go. If it's a situation where the client says we need you to fix it, then there'll be certain things we may be asking for. We may need images that are higher res. We may need fonts that it's missing. There just may be certain things that we have to start that lines of communication. And as you can imagine, now we've got traction, and that traction starts to slow down the job. So that's why I strongly, after 20 years in the business, encourage people to adopt this PDF workflow. The print-ready PDF workflow is proven.
So what we need to do, we've got a request. You were going to show our audience how to set up a pocket folder.
Okay, that's not something I'm going to be able to do right now on the fly. That is for a later class, but I do encourage.
Oh, it is? Okay. You
mentioned
that at the beginning, I think.
That was one of our more advanced classes that we're looking at, and in that one I will kind of go from start to finish on bringing all the documents together and creating a PDF, and we'll talk a little bit about glue flaps and the various things. It's probably not something I can do in the amount of time we've got left right now. But we will, whoever that client is, we'll be happy to make sure they're informed when that webinar is ready. And I'm glad that question came up, because it's a big one. It's one that we see a lot.
So we will get back with her maybe directly, and maybe kind of talk through that process with her a bit. Well, we're kind of bumping up against our time here. Any other questions from anyone in our audience? I guess it's not appropriate to say speak now, but type now, or forever hold your peace, I suppose. There is the email address here on the screen. Feel free to follow up with us with any outstanding questions. We certainly hope that you found this time valuable with us today. And again, next month we will be talking about wide format applications in your business and the marketplace. And then you will be receiving a follow-up email tomorrow with both the video link and the survey. David, any parting comments or suggestions for our audience?
Yeah, just more words of encouragement to hope that our clients look at adopting this workflow. I'm on hand to help with that. Stepping back now from the 30,000-foot view, the bigger picture here is if you can get your workflow into a print-ready file coming to us, then you can start to adopt some of our other automation features that we have. We have something called Insight, which is a codec product, and with Insight and with our automation, you can be dropping files kind of into Insight. They can what we call auto refine, which is kind of another word for ripping a file. And you can have proofs ready to look at within minutes on your end from a remote location. And you now are involved then in a automation workflow. You can review your files then on Insight with what we call Smart Review. So a beautiful workflow setup that works great with our digital presses and all our offset presses. Highly encourage it. We're going to be getting more involved in the future webinars with adopting Insight and what's involved with that. But I just wanted to give you words of encouragement that these initial 101 steps are all to kind of get you on that path to that nice automated workflow that a lot of our clients have adopted and are enjoying. They're in remote locations, they upload their files, they're looking at proofs online within minutes, they're okaying jobs, and their jobs are hitting the presses and making deadlines fast. So we want to encourage more people.
So in addition to the print-ready PDFs, it really opens up many opportunities for them to create additional efficiencies in their workplace.
Yes, it's kind of like this is the foundation to get you into a workflow where your print provider, then you end up with a worry-free environment. You can rely on us. Jobs come through, and you're building a great relationship with us, and you've kind of got a worry-free situation being set up. We have a lot of people who are adopted this, and they're doing great, and they give us lots of great encouragement back of how much they love it, and they're so glad they did it.
Awesome. Great. Okay, so this PDF, excuse me, the pocket folder, and this last question I've got here, we're going to get back. We're going to get back with this person offline, and I think that's going to conclude what we've done today. Again, we thank you, our audience, for joining us. We hope you found this valuable, and please, we do look forward to your feedback. We certainly want to make this experience valuable for you. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. Stay warm and dry.
All right.
Thanks,
Goodbye,
Dave.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.